And we're live. Welcome back, everyone, to the HVAC 2.0 show. Got a small crew with us. And I think, first of all, what we want to get into is we've not had Reedy in a while. So we want to catch up and see how your year's going.
Well, it is going fantastic. Got a lot more leads than I did last year, closing quite a bit of them. My percentage is 56%. That's my closing rate. And I'm almost at I'm not, we've got a lead log, and our lead log, it's not quite fully finished yet, but I was up to 500 and either 568 or 548,000 as of mid-March. So that's pretty good. We've still got April, the rest of March and the rest of April, but I feel good about our free quote, updated, and the old one. I felt good about it too, but feel better about this one. It's just a good, solid thing. Matter of fact, there was a job that I went on, and we did I did a free quote, and it had been a customer of ours who had already bought years ago, and I did a free quote for him, but it wasn't the same. It was just kind of, just this is what you've got. This is what we're going to put in. It was real basic. This one I went back, and we were quite a bit higher because it's been 8 years since I've been to her house. And she wanted to change the upstairs unit. So when we went out there, we, before I kind of told her what she should do, that's a big difference from what we did this time, which I didn't tell her what we should do. We built a specification together, got the green light, and she said, well, I'm going to get another quote. I got to keep you honest. Okay, great. So she does. She gets another quote. She calls me up. She says, I'm going with them guys. I said, why? And she said, because, they're $4,500 less than you are. I said, okay. I said, well, how did they match up to the specification? Oh, it was a good unit. It wasn't exactly the same, but it was a good unit. She said, and they are changing the duct system. I said, yeah. I said, how long are they going to be there? She said, 2 days. I said, 2 days, and they're going to change the duct system. I said, I know your duct system's small, but 2 days? I said, I said, I bet you the trunk's going to be 5 feet long and have 12 runs coming out of it or something like that. And she said, I said, here's what you need to do. I said, you need to ask them, does it do the things that we talked about doing? And how long are they going to be there? What kind of guarantees are they giving you? And she did. And within about an hour, she called me back. They were going to be there 2 days. We were going to be there 4. They were giving her a 16-SEER single-stage piece of equipment. We were giving her a variable capacity piece of equipment. There was none of the 6 functions, and ours had almost all of them. And, so I said, you want to, what you going to do? You going with us? She goes, yeah, you're a great sales guy. I said, what makes you say that? She said, the smiley faces.
All right.
So we got the job, and then she bought another filtration system. So that was good for her. Yeah. So that's what's been going on with me lately. Taking a few trips, but that's the main thing. That's been
what was your average sale and your revenue per lead?
It was 9,200. My average sale was right at 14K.
Okay.
It's a little down from last year, but my revenue per lead is up.
Okay.
I don't know if it's scared people, tariff related or not. I have no idea. I don't care about all that junk. But, some of it I know is equipment availability, because the R454 stuff, we were like everybody else running into, can we get it? Can we not get it? Can we get it? Can we not get it? And
how have y'all been handling that? Like what's it been like for y'all for that?
Well, early on, it was terrible because we were having to go. We couldn't get green speeds, and when I say early on, I mean like a month and a half ago. We couldn't get green speeds, and they were trying to push the remaining R410A stuff out, and they still are to this day trying to do that. They still want us to buy some old 2-stages, and we don't buy a lot of 2-stages anyways. We're more, the green speed crossover kind of people. At least I am.
Carrier isn't very well priced on their 2-stage, are they, Tanner?
No.
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 They're kind of high, just across the board.
Right, but really they're not offering much.
Yeah.
In the 2-stage, it's
Yeah.
not any better than any other 2-stage.
No.
It doesn't have anything that differentiates it that could justify the increased cost.
Well, even in their own product line, I'm sure Reedy's prices are real similar, where it's like in some scenarios the 2-stage could potentially be more expensive than a crossover.
Yeah.
And so it's like,
why would you do that?
Yeah, why would you? I mean, because it's I don't know. And then if you are someone that sells Daikin as well, you're gonna
I mean, the fit's gonna crush it.
Yeah, the fit is going to be less expensive than Carrier's 2-stage, and you're kind of getting lesser performance out of it. And so it's like, I think that's probably why they have such a surplus of those equipment and why they're pushing it now, because they're like, we've got this big backlog because nobody buys it. Because
why does nobody buy it? Maybe you should do something different.
Yeah.
Right.
Because, look at the price difference in the 2-stage and the 5-stage. It's not that much difference, but you're getting a lot more performance out of the 5-stage. So if you're in the price range, you'd have to be crazy to not go up to the 5-stage. That's why I've never sold one, and I've never even priced one, and it's simply because of that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Because even the 5-stage, the old 5-stage, was within about $800 or $900 of the 2-stage.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Not with everything they could do. Now, have you sold? What about the latest Infinities? Have you sold any of those VNA O's or 3s?
Nope, I have not. We've still had, and we may still have not. I've not asked my salesman on what our inventory's like for the 410A. I've still been getting some 410A stuff as I've been selling. I've actually not sold any of the new refrigerant yet.
Really?
Yeah, and so luckily that's kind of where I've been. So that way the price, because I know these new prices on the new equipment is just, it's for the Bryant stuff. It's making it very tough for me right now to offer, some of the, especially the single stage and anything in that lower end tier of equipment, just because it's just so expensive. I was looking at my prices just the other day, and even for single stage, there's some package units that's getting up close to $5,000.
Yeah.
Just the price for me. And and I'm like, I can another supplier I use that sells Sinclair, which is like a cheap just a Linux brand that's a lot cheaper, and it's half the cost of it. And when you look at the actual performance, the performance is essentially about the same. It's just single stage equipment. And so it's an interesting take. And then you factor in the shortage of refrigerant, which is kind of crazy. The fact that, you're going to push a regulation to be like, hey, use this thing. And you're like, okay, let me buy some. Well, we kind of don't have enough. And it's like,
yeah,
what?
$1,100 a jug.
Yeah. It's like, crap, at that point, bring back R22.
Yeah.
You're in the same price range at that point. It's insane.
Yeah. Yeah. You're exactly right. Well, we don't have any of the green speed or any of the 5-stage equipment. They've got 2-stage, and that's all they've got.
Yeah.
Ronnie's all been sold out in Louisville. I don't know if they're out in Indianapolis, but I think one of the things that happened to Ronnie is there's a competitor of his has a warehouse, and so they warehouse for Carrier just for themselves. So that saves Carrier the headache of warehousing. They're providing the space and everything. So Carrier owns the inventory. These people, I think they still have a bunch of it because they saw what was coming, and this allows them to be competitively priced against the market.
Yeah.
Because Ronnie is running into bids where the people are bidding or are proposing the old equipment that isn't available to Ronnie.
We got a guy that there's two companies down here that were doing that same thing. And I kept on getting these people telling me you're $5,000 or $6,000, more. And when I started, I asked him, I said, I don't care about the price. I said, let me see the proposal. And a lot of them were quoting this R410A stuff. There was one guy quoting a brand called Tutco Cool or something like that, just some weird piece of equipment. And they were selling it at cut rate. And the problem is that when that stuff runs out, they're going to be in a bind.
Right. They're not gonna be competitive anymore.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, eventually, once this transition period's over, everything's going to balance back out. But it's just going to be a weird transition between then.
Yeah.
I think the one thing I'm kind of wondering about is just the price on the high end equipment is jumping up so drastically that, I mean, I'm sure I guess if we rewound, the 410A 22 transition, I'm sure everyone's probably saying the same thing that I'm saying now, but it just kind of seems like it's starting to get to where, okay, we may need some innovative price cutting happening somewhere. Because
I'll tell you what, on a 27 VNA 336, which that's the most efficient green speed that they have. The cost for that, without any rebates, tax credits, or anything, 3 tons is going to be right at about $25,000, and that's what we're selling it at. And Duke, I don't know if you are Duke Progress where you're at or not, but they joined with Carrier, and so like you can get like $6,200 off, $4,200 for that rebate from them. You can't get a Carrier rebate, and then you get the tax credit, $6,200. So that helps a little bit. The problem is that means that energy costs they're going to start increasing their energy costs sooner or later.
Yeah.
So, have you put in any of those crossovers? Did you put in any of the old style?
I've put in one a few years back, and I wasn't super impressed with the humidity control. It just seemed to run a fairly warm coil, and watching the humidity, it was staying like 60 to 65%. And I guess after using that one and watching it, I mean, it worked fine. They weren't complaining, and I didn't bring it up. I just I just looked at it and I was like, this is not what I was hoping for. Which I know I'd heard, and I don't know, maybe they've started doing it, but do you know about when the Infinity control or the Conex control with the crossover, like when that is either going to happen or is it currently compatible?
Well, they were, at this point, it is not. I think that what they're referring to, they've got a model number KSACN 1401, and it looks sort of like a weird mini split control. But if you wanted to put what we had done for months and months, is we had put it with the Ecobee and wired, the Ecobee to the unit and then the unit to the outside unit like a normal unit.
Yeah.
And we've just been really aggressively sizing them. Well, we've started doing it where we're putting 16 two-stranded shielded cable from the air handler to the outdoor unit, and that makes it to where it can dehumidify. It's fully variable, and you can do. It's not the same as the one that control, the KSACN one, but it's as close as you're going to get without it.
Okay.
And it's got something weird about the heat strips. There's some settings you can make, but from what we've heard from everyone, tech reps and the field reps, is that those heat strips are not going to come on until they absolutely need to.
Yeah.
So that sort of scared me a little bit, because who determines that?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
normally like to lock them out, but
Yeah.
Well, right. Before that, didn't they have like an efficiency setting and a comfort setting at least?
yeah, not on that. It's got
Yeah, but they need it.
yeah, what they've got now is that if you wire it the way the S1, S2, or whatever it is on the controller, on the air handler, it'll take, and it slows down the fan speed with the compressor. So
Okay.
it's sort of,
Yeah. Yeah.
Trying
yeah,
to guess better.
still better than a two-stage.
Yeah. 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 Because for me, that's where because I've always kind of not really had something that I felt was a great option for that middle of the road, but that's where I'm kind of feeling like, especially with this refrigerant shortage problem, because I know Daikin uses R32, which doesn't seem to have the same problems. I'm thinking that's probably where I'm going to be sliding that Daikin Fit equivalent into that spot, because I think the prices are pretty similar. It's just the Daikin Fit's communicating, which I do like.
Yeah. I've been intrigued by those, but we can't even get them.
Yeah, that's why I hadn't tried them before, just because getting them was difficult. Or the supplier that I was going to have to get them through was difficult. Therefore, it made getting them difficult, because they just,
Right.
Well,
kind of
they're
useless.
Goodman now, right? So just get them at Goodman.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm getting it. Oh, you remember that Southern Pipe supply house we
Yes.
stopped by? That's where, because I didn't know they were selling HVAC equipment, and which they're just now. It's a new thing, and they're selling Goodman. Therefore, I can get the Goodman equivalent. So I'll buy the Goodman branded equipment, but I'll get the Daikin control, and it functions exactly the same as the Daikin Fit. It's actually the same equipment.
Oh, Timmy, we're going to have to show what Timmy shared to us today. Don't you think? Do you have that in such a place that you can easily share it on screen?
Let me pull that up. I think I should be able to.
So Timmy's saying the Hiles version of the crossover can be used with the communicating controller.
Yeah, I think he's talking about the KSACN 14, because it is the same. As far as I know, I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, which I will say actually, I forgot about. I do have a crossover currently. It's in my garage that I am going to be testing, because I want to play with it and see what it's working. Because I didn't get to do it. I was going to do a local event, and I was trying to do a setup that I had a welder fall through on me, and it put me in a bind.
You were
that I
going to
couldn't.
have a setup for the back of the truck and just run
Yeah,
it off the 220 outlet.
yeah. So I was fighting with a welder.
You're
trying
going to have
get
to buy a
something built.
welder now, because it sounds like a thing that you're going to want to do for yourself instead of.
I did buy a welder, because I was just like, after trying to call multiple ones, no one will answer the phone, and no one actually does what they say. So I'm like, screw it, I'll buy my own welder and do it myself.
Tanner.
But
So predictable.
but what I am going to do is I'm going to take this this crossover system and get it set up with an air handler, and I'm going to set it on a return plenum box, like a big airdrop like we typically do if it's in a vertical position. I've got an April Air Media filter I'll put in, and then I'm just going to do some short duct work to basically build a roll around demo unit. And then what I'll do is I'll just have it to where I can plug it into the back of my truck with a 240 outlet. I can go to these events and stuff and set up a tent, put like, a few walls on it, have like branding things, have this unit set up with the duct going down the side, and I can just drop duct work down into these tents, and then just have this unit to run. Because then, for one, those units are insanely quiet. So it's like you can kind of use it as a demo to be like, hey, this is what it can be like. That's going to spark conversations like, that's not like my unit. It kicks on and makes it sound like it's coming through the wall and like all this other stuff. And so I'm going to kind of use it just like a demo. Plus, it'll be something cool to see because I'll be at events where it's hot. And then I can be like, if we can keep you cool here, imagine what we can do for your house. People have a spot to come like cool down and stuff. And plus, when I'm not doing events, I have this unit now that I can run, test it out, and I can try different controllers, see how they operate, and just like play around with it to see what that's going to be like. Because it may be something where I can have it along with the dock and fit to kind of, if they get cheap enough, because as expensive as the single stage equipment is, I may just start offering only variable speed for the most part, and then have just single stage for just the people that are like, hey, price is the only thing that matters to me. I want the cheapest thing you got.
Yeah.
But on to this next thing. I will share this. It's a screenshot of I don't know if this was from a group. I don't know the context
of
it.
Facebook, from some kind of a Facebook post.
Yeah, I'm just not. Yeah. Let's see. Is this it? Yeah, there we go.
Oh, can you make it bigger? Sorry.
No.
Can't see.
I'll read it. This past week, I had 10 consultations with Virginians that have had HVAC systems installed by big companies that ultimately were too big for the house. I'm not an HVAC contractor, but I have cases like this, and each time the ductwork is too small to handle the airflow, which causes the unit to be air starved, which causes malfunction. Each case, the installing company comes out and fixes the issues, but ultimately the system continues to fail because it's too big. The installers know this. I think I'm going to have to take exception to that. Other than the rest of it is correct.
Yeah.
But don't want to eat the cost to replace the system or upgrade the ductwork. This behavior is in violation of the Virginia Consumer Protection Act. I am currently suing a major HVAC contractor for actual and treble damages and attorney's fees for this, and it appears I will be busy with many more clients facing similar circumstances.
Gracious.
And then, of course, Timmy said, if only there was a process to prevent this. he just posts the funniest shit. So
yeah, that is interesting that an attorney has
more knowledge.
Concluded to this, which like what I'm guessing you were probably leaning to as well when it got to the installers know this but don't want to eat the cost to replace the system or upgrade the ductwork. Odds are they probably don't really know this because they don't really understand the actual issues.
And it's not up to the installer anyway. He's been told to install what he was told to install. So, I mean, I'm going to try and have a conversation with this guy and help him realize that it has to get stopped way before the installer, because the installer has no power in this.
Unless he's referring to the installers as being just referring to the company that installed it.
The company that installed it.
That might be what he's referring to, but I think...
But to fix it, you got to get to the person who specified the equipment. And this is funny because Reedy's talking about a specification situation. This is a specification situation. And we're talking about how to make the free quote be about helping people build their specification, and then having the opportunity to bid last, so that we can do what Reedy did, which is review the specifications that the others provided, so that the homeowner understands what corners are being cut. Hey,
Yeah.
it's not fair to me to lose the job if I'm not bidding apples to apples.
Yep.
And so, I mean, one of the things I think we're going to start talking about is how we get compensated in two ways. One, you like what I propose and you buy from me. Two is I understand why I lost the job. Instead of wondering if I'm doing something wrong, I would like to know what caused me to not get the job. And then I think we need to talk about the value proposition of having us be last to bid, so that we can review the other proposals and help the homeowner understand what corners are being cut, and then ask if do you want us to bid to having those corners cut? Because I'm fine installing like that if you're aware of it, but I'm
Yeah.
not okay cutting those corners without you being aware of it.
Yeah.
And so we got to continue to sort of hone this narrative of last to bid. There's benefit to you as well as benefit to us. Hopefully what we provided today has been informative and helped you make a better decision. Like the lady said, oh my God, you're a better salesman because of the smiley faces. And that leads me into something that I've been thinking about some. One is our sandbox test environment. So I'm going to share this. Where is it? Here. Okay. So this is the HVAC20 test environment. It's in heroku. And I'm just going to log in. And I'm going to go to my account. And this is the Reedy sample Reedy and I built. And so this is the client interactions. The 4 questions are here. The free quote questionnaire is here. The free quote measurements are here. And this is improved some. So this is the 6 functions choices. So these are our tables again. And we are continuing to think about these tables as part of the educational flow with the homeowner. So at this point, you go to the tables after they've watched the 6 functions video while it's fresh in their mind, so that you can help them sort of narrow in on the price range by also comparing what smiley faces that they want for various things. So if there's some kind of a function here, load matching, mixing, dehumidification, filtration, or fresh air, it can be discussed here. Now, a lot of people have wanted noise and humidification to be also potential smiley faces, because a lot of people have noise complaints, and it'll also bring up the idea of, hey, if this equipment's right outside their bedroom window, you want to make them aware of whether or not it's going to be noisy. No, quieter than your current equipment. It won't be waking you up all night. Or, hey, this is still going to be kind of noisy equipment. So this sort of helps them understand different systems. And I think we'll have, there's a graphic that also expresses how this different equipment operates. Like single stage is the spike, 2-stage sort of modulates a little bit. Modulating equipment just stays very tight. in the temperature band. And then I've also put in the stages. I think we need to let people understand how many stages they're going to have in both heating and cooling, depending on, if you get a single stage hybrid, you actually get 2 stages of heat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe we actually talk about it here in the tables. But down here at specification building, I think this is where you tell them, okay, this is what you got right here in this column. This is what you think you'd like to have. This might be, what the competition specified. And then, but I think you also have to include the best that we offered you in this table. So it's much, or this might also be kind of what you might recommend them thinking about improving upon. If this is their initial specification, this could be based on what I understand about your situation, this is probably what I would go with. Because that'll be like, you might want to spend more than $12,000. You might, for an extra $1,000 or so, you can get better.
That's a good comparison at a glance.
It's a comparison at a glance. And the first one is, this is the education to funnel you in on this next thing, which is so we want you to get the best equipment you can afford instead of the crappiest system you can find, because we want you to have whatever smiley faces you can possibly have, particularly the ones that you don't have now that you really miss. And then this is likely load range. So you put this information in, and bang, it creates your likely load range. So you don't have to go to the spreadsheet anymore.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to recheck some of the back end on this, because the cooling is coming up quite aggressive.
Okay.
If you look at that, like 2,200 square feet, and it's saying green zone is in the 4,000 BTU range.
Right. So I wonder if that's a function of, cooling design temp is, maybe it's the cooling design temp.
Yeah, I was checking it while we were going over the other stuff. It's still a bit too aggressive. Something was probably got off in the calculations on the back end.
Okay.
And,
okay, we'll bring that to Eric's attention. But
yeah.
how cool is this? And this down
Yes.
here, everybody
Super
seems
cool.
to want this to say tons. So in the cooling side, it's going to be, 1 ton, 2 ton, 3 ton.
Yeah.
And of course you can override this if you wanted to put 16.
And of course, people need to realize that 2 tons is a nominal term. It's probably not 2 tons when it's 92 degrees outside.
Oh, I don't think that. So
we realize
the salesperson might need to know that, but I don't know that we're going to get the homeowner very. So, and then this is the other thing. The duct pressure is going to go here. We're going to have this pop up for the duct pressure too, the chart, so that'll be a visual here. And then you, I'm not going to save any of this. I'll just go back. So, and then this is the preview. And so there are a bunch of things that I'd like to have added to the preview. I don't think I'll go deep into that now, but I think we'll have the 1 question above the 4 questions, including their answer and maybe also how long they plan to stay. Because right at the top, that might be, because this problem for the next 20 years is different than this problem for the next 3. Right? And then it looks like it. Is that the information I just put in? Did it save it? I don't think. No. Okay, so it's interesting. That in that other page, this was messed up, but here this looks okay. And then of course the static pressure, and so this static pressure thing ties right back to what that attorney was talking about today. And as Timmy said earlier, geez, maybe people should just be taking static pressure all the time. I mean, it's so funny.
If you engage that attorney, Ted, if you start to have an exchange with him, I'd love to hear how he knows the duct system is too small. Has he had somebody else consult about it?
Right. Well, and I guess you'd have to say that the duct system is too small for the HVAC, not necessarily too small for the house. And so you get all of these targets that are uncertain. And so how did he arrive at that? And does he think there's a problem out there with a whole lot of ductwork that's too small? Or do you think the bigger problem is a whole lot of equipment that's too big? So anyway, this is moving along pretty well. I think we're really close to the point where we're going to be able to have more normal people that don't have black belts having the same kind of success that you guys have with this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know Ronnie made his goal for the month. I think he's looks like he's going to be over 250,000 for the month. And he was very excited about, and this is partially due to Reedy. He's pretty excited about driving his closing rate up because he wants to come after you for your average sale, at your average revenue per lead. So nice job with that. Anyway, did anybody have any questions about this? I think in the report, at the bottom of each section and or page, there's going to be a place for notes and comments because just sending this to a homeowner might help them remember things, but we need to have in there things that they said to spark it. And then I think we also need to have links to the videos, to the 6 functions and the static pressure video.
Yeah. I also think placement for those things. I know in the comfort consult, you're getting a lot of that up front before you get to the recommendation side. I think we may want to have keep the recommendations and the core information up top, and then all of the refresher or hey, this is what we talked about information towards the bottom.
Oh,
how I come to that, I actually I joined this BNI group, which is like business networking and stuff, and I went and did I was using MeasureQuick and like creating this report of what I was looking to try to do for maintenance calls to kind of go do a maintenance, test things, be thorough, find all the things, and then offer recommendations for improvements. And so I was testing out creating this report in Company Cam with all these measurements and stuff. And I was doing it with someone that was within BNI and kind of just saying, hey, I want to do this. All I ask for is like, just give me feedback. Like, what do you think? Just any little details, like any criticisms. And one of the things that they had told me, and the reason I was noting this is because I'm doing it for free. So
Right.
this is being seen as a free thing, such as what we're doing here, versus a comfort consult, which is a paid consultation, which they're going to be more like, I want to know these details because I paid you for this. And the feedback that I kind of got, and I do think their feedback is good because they have a background in marketing, is they said I had everything structured like the comfort consult. And one of the main feedbacks that I got from them was, take the recommendations, simplify it, and keep it up top. They're like, I want to see what the recommendations are, and then I may or may not want to see all those details, but I want you to send them to me. It's like, I want to know they're there and they exist, but I'm probably not going to look at it, and I don't want to have to scroll through to find the information that I do want to see. And so that kind of got me thinking, for the free quote, that may be the same scenario of like some of this information that we were talking about adding into the report of like, hey, when we asked this question, here's what you told me, blah, blah, blah. I think a lot of that is going to be in that same territory where people are probably going to be like, I do want it, but I want it like either separate or at the very bottom, because I probably won't look at it, but I want it there in case I ever do need to.
Okay. So what are some of the things that you think would go to the bottom?
If we were going to be kind of pulling in some of the information from the questionnaire, like we talked about, such as any, like the one question of, if what were you hoping a new system's going to do that your old system doesn't, any other of those questions other than the 4 questions, probably at the bottom.
Okay.
I think everything else that we currently have here should probably stay kind of what order that we landed on. But then all the additional stuff that we've been talking about, probably having that under, and I could have been wrong. In my mind, when we were talking about this, I was placing it in my mind up around the 4 questions and having it before the tables and all that other stuff. But after trying some of these out and getting some feedback, especially from this one I was saying in particular, I'm kind of feeling like a lot of that info probably would be best putting it towards the bottom when we add it. Because I think as we start adding it, we could, it could kind of take away from the report itself, because then people's going to be like, I got to flip through this long report of a bunch of information I don't care about, which then may make them overlook important things, such as, the 4 questions, duct
I
pressure,
haven't even
and the
gotten
table.
to the point of trying to figure out where to include a significant portion of the questionnaire.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I mean, maybe there would be an appendix where you put all those things, but that's not. And I guess maybe I didn't express it to myself very well. I think you'd need to see what I mean. I'm just like trying to put explanations.
Yeah.
Instead of it just being a visual representation, explaining what the visual representation is. Because I think when you have a free quote, the feedback I'm getting anyway, and predominantly from Ronnie, because he's got lots and lots of leads, and so he's calling and telling me about them. Is I think what's like, people really appreciate this information, but if we were to send it back and it just had these charts on there without sort of clearly explaining what the charts showing, or maybe some of the conversation that happened when you shared the chart with them at the free quote, mostly this is to remind people of what happened at the free quote, because they've just been overwhelmed, right? You have just given me, 4 years of education, college education in one night, and I don't remember a thing you told me. Like Greedy, that lady, well, I'm going to go with the guy that was $4,000 less, right? She didn't remember a thing that you told her.
Not a bit.
And so we need a way to create a reminder. And how did you give her a price, or did you ask for a privilege of last to bid? Because you were doing that some.
Yeah, she wanted me to give her a price, but not then. She wanted me to give her a price the next day. So,
Okay.
she was busy, had to leave. And so I took my time and I sent the report to her that day just for some ranges. And then the next day I sent the stuff.
Okay. And she's told you that you could have privilege of last to bid, and that's why she called you.
Yeah. And in effect, we did get privilege of last to bid, but we didn't. I didn't change the bid in any way,
Right.
shape, or form.
Right, but you won the job because you asked.
Right.
Because she would have otherwise not called you. She would have just gone with the other guy.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So that's already, that tactic is already paying off pretty well.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I think at the bottom of this report, we're going to remind them of that contract and the
Yeah, right.
reasons.
Yeah.
And so that'll have standard wording. And by the way, when you're ready to as we talked about, you agreed to giving me the privilege of last to bid. When you're ready for that, let me know. And these are the things that you get. Like, you get stuff and I get stuff from me getting privilege of last to bid. And that lady's going to be way happier.
Yeah.
And she knows it.
Yeah. She completely knows it.
It's it's sort of a great feeling, right?
Yeah. You got to think about it. If they're only staying there for 2 days, we're staying there for 4 days. That alone, I mean, we could be sitting there laying around for 4 days, but because we've already done some work for her, she already kind of knows we're not playing around, and she already knows that she got a good job out of it. So when it came down to it, 2 days versus 4 days, they said, we may be here 2 days. That's what they said. We may be here 2 days. And I told her, we will be there for 4 days. So.
Right. You're like, that extra $4,000 is going somewhere.
Yeah.
It wasn't just going into our pocket. They cut 2 days out of 2 or 3 guys doing actual work to your house that you wanted.
5-foot trunk. And I said it might have been 10 or 11 runs. It was 9 runs. 5-foot trunk, 9 runs. And you ain't supposed to put no duct 3 feet from the end of the
right. Trunk. So they're all like octopusing out. It's like a squid.
3 in the middle, 3 on the top, and 3 on the other side.
Yeah. Have one right on the end.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's a good measure.
Ma'am, do you think these people care if you're comfortable?
I mean,
oh, this is good. Well, so that's all I had to bring you up to speed on what I'm thinking about as far as making this smoother so that we can start helping sort of more average salespeople out there, and maybe helping this attorney fix this problem before it becomes a problem. Because I imagine he's,
I hope you get to talk to him. That would be just to hear a mindset of someone like that, I think would be invaluable.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm like, hey, we could probably advertise for you. Yeah. All of my guys would be happy to refer people to you.
Yeah, I mean, that's just
make it tougher on the guys that are doing it backwards, doing it wrong. Like like Timmy said, there's a process. And all you have to do is follow the process, and then these mistakes don't get made.
Yep.
So Ken, what's going on with you? We're probably going to lose Reedy here. It's 9 o'clock.
Right. Yeah.
Love you, Reedy.
I'm just going to listen to Ken for a minute and then I'm out.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll try to make it worth your while.
Okay.
My son needs some help with wiring some new units at a job tomorrow. Control wiring, I think. One of the servicemen is expecting a child with his wife. And what was happening with the other service guy? Oh, well, his health isn't great. He just is getting to the point. Oh, and he's not he's not open to learning new things.
Okay.
He says, "Oh, I've never done this before." That's his. It's like, well, there's a book that comes with it.
RTFM. Tanner
Yeah.
had a talk about this the other day where he's putting manuals into AI.
Yes.
So anyway, go ahead.
Well, I think you mentioned that before. That's a good thing, and that way you can ask a question and about a specific issue, and instead of having to search through the book, it helps you find it. I like that.
Yeah.
And I heard from Nate today. He wants to see if I can come down in the fall to install a unit with him.
Are you going to move that crappy Bosch over to the new house?
Yep. He wants to move the Bosch, probably store it. He said he's got a building/warehouse thing that he'd like to install it in later.
Oh, he doesn't want anything to do with that unit and houses.
He doesn't want it in a residence.
He doesn't want any Bosch in any of his residences. Oh, that's too bad.
Yep.
But we can make fun of people who think that Bosch are great and that they dehumidify well and stuff like that.
Yep.
Well, that'll be nice. And you'll get a week. You get a week stay.
Another week. Yeah. So yeah. Well, I guess we'll just live there.
Yeah.
We'll have him. Yeah, we'll have him turn over one of his Airbnbs to us.
It
then we'll vacation elsewhere.
It still gets kind of cold there in the winter.
Yeah. Not much different from here, though. We're only 2.5 hours away.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. Well, you're in Rochester.
Still gets cold at Tanner's in the winter, I came to find.
Yeah, to me it gets cold. I'm sure the real northern people probably laugh
to
at
me
it.
It gets cold.
Yeah, but when it gets you're right. You're right. When it gets 20 and below, yeah, I'm not happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But one story that I've got, I had some pretty good feedback on a filtration job that I did a few months back with someone. They had originally contacted about duct cleaning, and obviously started with just like, okay, what are you looking for? What was you hoping that was going to do? What happens if it doesn't do what you think it's going to do? Blah blah blah, just Sandler stuff. And what it boiled down to was that they had a significant dust problem that they're trying to fix, and someone told them that they needed to have their ducts cleaned, and that's the problem. So talked to them, was like, we can get this lined up to clean your ducts, but just so you know, if your house is dusty, it's not gonna, wherever the dust is coming from, cleaning the ductwork is not gonna make that problem go away. And so it may, it may feel like it's cleaner because it looks cleaner, but if we're looking to try to address that, we may want to look somewhere else. So what we ended up doing is they didn't want to spend a whole lot of money. They didn't have much money to spend. So we just did April Air media cleaner on it. Plus the indoor unit was just disgusting. So we just cleaned the indoor unit, added a April Air. An April Air was just a 20 by 20. We didn't just basically it was a open plenum on for the return. So we just put that April Air media on the top. They
Can
were
I ask
running.
you a Ken question?
What's that?
When you cleaned it, did you clean the blower motor?
Blower wheel. Yeah.
Blower wheel.
No, because they didn't want to pay to do that much. Just
Was it a
basically,
PSC?
no,
Oh,
it was a X13.
okay.
Yep. But
And
yeah,
they didn't want it. Okay. I'm sorry.
no, you're
How
good.
old was the system, Tanner?
6 or
Oh
7.
man, I'm sure it needs to be cleaned by this time.
Yeah, right. With all that, without good
Oh,
filtration
yeah.
and the way
Yeah.
the whole place was dirty.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
well, missed
Yes.
opportunity.
Yeah.
But they
it
were
was,
worried about dust, not about grenading their fan motor.
yeah. It's one of those situations where they don't have very much money to put
Mhm.
into this. She was actually waiting on her disability check to come in just to even pay for this.
Okay.
Which I did the work and was just kind of like, hey, we'll do it, and then just pay me when you can. Like,
Right.
she there was a few companies that was trying to take advantage of her by selling her duct cleaning and selling it, selling it high and knowing that they weren't going to do a worth a crap of a job. But anyways, I ended up going back to do just a basic maintenance on the outdoor unit, and she was saying that they said it took about 2 to 3 weeks, and then after that they said it's been a significant reduction in dust. They said it's so much better. Her son lives with her, and he said he's actually sleeping better at night, that he feels like he can breathe better. Just
Oh my
a
gosh, how
huge
awesome. Doesn't
improvement.
that feel great?
Oh yeah. And
Oh my gosh.
So Tanner, did you suggest what might be responsible for dust?
yes, it was, ma'am, you have 3 full-grown dogs in your
Oh,
house.
well, that's an obvious one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, it was that they smoke inside, and
Oh my
it
gosh.
was a mobile home. So, they're
It's a
not,
bunch of we're going to
it,
treat the symptoms rather than cure the
Yeah.
disease. And so this
yeah.
is a good symptom treatment.
Yeah. And I'm sure everyone knows how they do the fresh air intakes for those mobile homes where they just have that flex duct that just kind of comes down and it's curled up because it's 5 feet longer than it should be. So, we just ended up, added
It comes from the
that
attic.
media filter. Yeah. And so we just straightened that flex duct up to where, you know, instead of it just having all dangled and, stuff to collect on it, we had it looking a little bit better anyways, and got that meat. And that was just a few months ago, and that filter was pretty nasty. And that's just for a few months of use. So it was, it helped a lot for sure. And then I also was telling her, because there's a lot of simple things that people can do on their own. One of the things that I always will tell people, especially if you have hard floors and hard surfaces, is get a robot vacuum with a HEPA filter and just set it on a schedule to run once a day. Like, the amount of dust that's going to cut down on is quite a bit. And then obviously filter fans, that sort of thing. And so their next step is their humidity stays very high. Bet you can't guess why. Uh, so their next step, I told them, I said, get some portable dehumidifiers, run those. So I feel like this is a good scenario of, this is someone that they're not going to buy a whole house dehumidifier. They're not going to replace their unit with a green speed. None of that's going to happen. But with a few simple upgrades and doing some things on their end, it's making a huge difference in their house, of having something that is very difficult to live in to something that they can manage on their own, that's going to require some legwork on their end, but it's still making a lot nicer house achievable.
Yeah.
It makes a really nice case study
Yes.
and possibly a referral person.
Oh yeah. Yeah. She was ecstatic. She was like, she's like, I may not know a lot of people, but anybody I can, I'm referring you. And I was
That's
like,
a
well,
good.
thanks.
it's a good faith move.
Yeah.
You did good, and that's good to hear. So many people
Oh yeah.
would try and do something different. You did great.
Yeah. And I did the job way cheaper than what I normally would, but it's one of those things that I kind of look at some situations as being like, you know, there's other methods of payment that's not just money. And
Yeah.
so if you can be like, hey, let's do this. If you don't mind, let me take pictures and videos and use it for content. Leave me some reviews, and if you know anybody, refer me. And so you
Yeah.
can kind of, to me, the payment isn't for the payment is being able to help somebody significantly and keep them from being taken advantage of by some of these other companies who are just wanting to clean their ducts and tell them they need to do it every 6 months. And then on top of that, being
Right.
able, yeah, because I mean, it's, if you just clean the ductwork, but you're still running a fiberglass filter that's, it's stopping all the large rocks and small children, but the dust is going straight through.
Right.
Like it's just gonna get dirty again. They're gonna say why, and then we'll do it again to clean the ductwork again. Like that's all they're gonna do. Put a UV light in.
Yeah.
Have you tried a Remy Halo? That's what they're gonna be
Right.
sold, and it's not gonna do anything. But being able to help them, and then if they can send me some referrals, great. If they can't, oh well. They left me a review. I'm hoping that her son will be leaving a review detailing some of the improvements that they have, so I can take a screenshot of that review, use it for posting and that sort of thing, use it in a case study and that type of stuff. I'll get some value out of it on my end, and let them have a nicer house for a lower
Yeah.
cost
Yeah.
as a trade-off.
On the subject of dust in the house, you guys have all probably seen the PDF that Sam Myers posted. The summary of the combination of mad air and the house as a system. It's a 13-page simple PDF with pictures. And he explains in the simplest of terms why a leaking supply duct outside of the envelope or a leaking return duct outside of the envelope is going to cause more infiltration. And I can remember something from 20, maybe even as far as 30 years ago. And I didn't know that. And somebody had said, oh, well, we seem to be getting a whole lot of white dust in the house from this new furnace. And of course, furnaces don't make white dust. They don't make any dust. And things such as a loose dryer vent in the house, you've got to look for causes other than the HVAC system.
Oh yeah.
So that's just a good thing to have at the ready when that complaint comes up.
I sold a job just recently, and it was for a dust problem. They had this super duper vacuum cleaner that had a LED light on it. Wood floors everywhere. You can see the dust everywhere. And the guy, he bought it for his wife, and he's trying to help her. And that light showed all the dust in the world. And so called me out there. They had zoning. They wanted to keep the zoning. They wanted to just get as much of the dust as they could, get rid of it. So our guys go out there. I sold them the job. I sold them the duct system, zoning, fresh air, filtration. We use IO zoning. It doesn't have a bypass, so it just cracks open dampers as the pressure increases.
Yeah.
And works okay, but I told him he wanted me to put on the proposal that we were going to get rid of the dust. And I said, no. I said, I am not doing that. I said, no one in their right mind would do that. And I said, I'm not doing it either. And I said, if it means we don't do the job, that's okay. And no, go ahead and do the job. Well, I'm saying this because of what you just said. When I went there, he had a bypass that was hooked up wrong. It was 50 feet long, and it didn't work right. He had duct leakage so bad that you could stick your hands on it and feel it in the attic. And
Ooh.
his house was under negative pressure. That was the long and short of it. And so
Sucking
Yeah.
fiberglass or
yeah, fiberglass and construction dust because it was in the attic.
construction dust. Sure, right.
Mhm.
He had a bath fan that had a hole big enough to stick your thumb through the hole, and it wasn't vented right. And so when we went in there, we came in with a plan. We were going to size the duct to what he had. He wasn't changing the system. He's going to do that later. But what we wanted to do is at least make it to where he could function right now. We told him it wasn't perfect, and we told him, you really need to be preparing yourself to change the equipment. He's got a gas furnace. It's 4 tons. It's too big, and so he knows all of that stuff. We finished the job. We're done with the job. He calls me 3 days later and says, I've waited and now it's not cooling. I said, oh gosh, And so I go there. Our guys wired the zone dampers backwards, so they weren't even opening. And so I said, okay. I said, that's easy enough. I looked, the coil's frozen solid.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, so I turned it
Oh,
off.
Lord.
We had a guy go right out there. He called me back and fixed it, got it working. I've been back there since, and we went through the whole thing. And I said, okay, so what do you think? Husband says, there's still dust here. I said, as I told you there would be. I know. And then his wife said, but it's a whole lot less. And he said, you know what we found out? He said, what we found out is now the doors push closed. The outside door pushes closed. And I said all that to say you're 100% right about that pressure.
Pressurization is the key.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got to have a little positive pressure.
Yeah. And we didn't ventilate the house according to ASHRAE standards. We didn't do that. We kept it. I think our CFM that we put is just a scuttle that we put it at. I think it was 65 CFM. It's a 3,400 square foot house with an average of 10 feet ceilings. I didn't even run the calculation. What I did is I just looked in what that book said and I went a little less. And now that guy is feeling good. So it's
awesome.
true.
Awesome.
Pressurization and
Yep.
and a good set of duct. It will go along.
Well, sounds like there's an opportunity to sell a comfort consult too, because if he wants to keep chasing, he needs a blower door.
Yeah. Well, I did a blower door test on a house like 2 doors down from his. It's a duplex and they're all built the same. And so I didn't do a blower door test. That's what we started out as, was a comfort consult, but he didn't want to go all that way. And so I said, okay. And I said, we can guess. And I said, it'll probably be a pretty good guess. He said, we can go to comfort consult. And I said, when it comes time to change a unit, you really need to consider, let's do that comfort consult. And he said he would. So,
Or not. That's fine. He'll get a likely load range.
yeah. Well,
but the comfort consult will help him find those holes where the dust is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the last house I checked in that neighborhood, which was just right close to him, it was, I don't remember the blower door test. I don't remember the number, but I know it was less than 1.
Oh, really? Okay.
Wow.
So that's why I knew we can add fresh air, and it's gonna help us.
Right, and that's why a little bit of fresh air had so much impact on the doors.
Right,
because that house is pretty tight.
I think we can get him. I think we could get him to, if he wanted to be real conservative, I think a 3-ton heat pump would work just fine with him. Because
Oh, that's the other thing we're going to put in likely load range. On the heating side, we'll put the strip heat on top of the heat pump.
What do you mean?
So in other words, when you talk about a 3-ton heat pump,
Mm-hmm.
if it's a 369, then you'll talk about it having another 40,000 BTU, right? Or whatever that calculation is.
Right.
So it'll actually it's 36,000 BTU cooling, but 76 BTU heating.
Right.
And because I think we need to talk differently about the heating output of these heat pumps.
So when you guys, this is ignorance
Because
on my
people
part.
are afraid of them still.
Yeah, not here.
Not there. Because they
Yeah.
know. Right.
But I mean, they what they are afraid of is heat strips. So,
Well, and they're afraid of heat strips because they're used to locking the heat pump out.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. I never heard anyone say that except for you. You're the only person I've ever, because I've always taken it for granted. You don't do that. You just lock the heat strips out until a certain temperature and then they come on.
Yeah.
But
you see,
never
we're up
lock the
north.
heat pump out.
We're up north, and people have been told gas heat is warm heat,
Yeah.
and that electric heat is expensive. So they're very leery of having any electric heat in there at all. But in my region, and where
the
Ted is, I think
defrost
people are
was a
used to it.
joke, and
Yeah.
I mean, the defrost is a lot better. All of it is
Oh, yeah.
a lot better.
So Tanner, when you are doing your load calculation, or not your load calculation, when you're putting in the equipment on the report, tell me how you do it, and I'll tell you how I do it. Do you include the heat strips or not in the heat?
For the stages?
This is you show me yours,
Or
and I'll
just-
show you mine.
No, I'm talking about when you put the likely load range, and then you put your equipment.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you mean. For the heating, I just match the capacity of what the cooling is. Like if it's a 3-ton heat pump, 3 tons cooling, 3 tons heating is what that is. Because, it's, to me, I kind of see it as sure, it's not like when it gets really cold, you're going to have fall off, but then it's like, okay, most of the time you're going to have more than that when it's warmer. But when it does get cold, you just use a little bit of heat strips. And to me, it's just, let's simplify it and call it 3.
I always put my heat strips with it. And
Okay.
I'll tell you the reason why is because if you look at the performance data, those heat pumps start to lose capacity at around 45 degrees.
Yeah.
And if you looked at like our design is 22 or 21.
Yeah.
If you look at that, it's nowhere near what it's supposed to be. So I always put that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why when Ted
who
says
did a good video on this recently? You know who did a good video on this recently? Eric Kaiser.
Yeah. In which group?
I'm trying to think of it now.
It wouldn't be HVAC.
I think he was interviewed by Amply. I think in Amply.
Oh, yeah.
On YouTube. And he did a very nice job of sort of expressing and in chart form capacity and how much, I mean, in a way that the consumer could probably grasp. It's like, okay, you're going to lose this much capacity, but you're still better off running the heat pump by a factor of 2.
Yeah.
Even at this really cold weather. So run the heat pump, and then you only have this much that you have to go straight resistance. So it, and he did a good job of kind of walking you through that. It's not a big, like everybody's afraid, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to pay my bill and my, house is going to get repossessed and then I'm going to be homeless. I mean, right? It's this whole drama, LARPing
Well, that's
society
why
we live in today. What?
That's why I put those heat strips like that, because I want them to see how crazy their size is.
Right.
I know that we're going to lose capacity, and I can show them that. But the fact is that most of the time, I don't even run heat strips down until 18 degrees, and I don't run it during defrost. And no one knows that but me. Now my wife, because she's in here probably asleep.
Uh-oh. Now she's going to start being like, oh, I'm cold.
That is not no work.
But
18 degrees.
But the fact is that if you put 36,000 and 34,000, you got 70,000 BTUs on a 3-ton system. And I want them to know how ridiculously oversized that is. So
right.
That's
you're
why
not ever going to be using all of it.
Yeah. And if you do, there's something
when you're
wrong.
using some of it, it's not going to be that bad.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
So I don't know, if you thought about it that way, but if you do, you should try that, because that might help you if you want. It might turn a little bit more.
A heat pump, that really I think is going to be necessary to help snap them out of that fear thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting ready to go because I am tired.
All right, I'll post on Slack the link to that video at Kaiser's.
Yeah, I'll watch it. I'm interested.
Yeah, he did a pretty good job, I thought. So,
well, I'll see you guys later.
Before you go, I've got a 2-minute dust story.
Oh yeah.
Okay. One of our customers, and he said, we're having so much dust in the house. And I said, fine, I'll come over. Check the air filter, which was really not very dirty, but his wife said, you come here, come into the bedroom where, and she said, she wiped her hand on the top of the bureau and full of dust. She said, I dusted that yesterday. I said, all right, what's changed? Well, they've got the new washer and dryer. I said, let's dig a little deeper. They had a 15-foot flexible dryer hose where they needed 6 feet. So it had a big trap in it. And then we walked outside and looked at the discharge. It was one of the plastic ones with a grate on the bottom, the plastic crisscross. That plastic crisscross was positively packed. They'd installed a new dryer with a fresh blower motor, and it lifted all the dust out of there and blocked that. And they'd been using this dryer for 3 weeks. So we cleaned that out. I trimmed the hose, put it back together. And then I thought to call them, 3 or 4 weeks later. Just called them while I was in the van. I said, I thought I'd follow up. How's the dust? He said, he hollers, honey, Ken's on the phone. She goes, he is my hero. So, it's rarely the HVAC system. You have to look for what could be generating this, whether it's a leaky house.
What's the source? What's the source?
I found. Yeah. So it's a matter of, don't always think that it's the equipment's fault.
Yeah. That's the truth. That's the truth. Yeah. Well, I'll see you guys later.
Okay.
I think we end the stream and have a little. We were having some Tesla talk before. Did you want to talk any more about that stuff?